Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. In this tutorial we'll explore how to build a spell checker and corrector program using Python. We often work with a lot of text objects in programming. These include simple README files that we add to our project repositories, email automation, or something else. The text that we use in these objects is prone to errors, misspellings, and so on. Using Python, we can quickly and efficiently check spelling and correct spelling of different words and sentences. To continue following in this tutorial, we'll need the TextBlob Python library. If you don't have it installed, please open Command Prompt if you're using Windows and install it using pip. As you can see, it's already installed on my computer, and it should only take a few seconds to get installed on your computer. In this section, we'll explore how to check spelling of a word using Python. The first step is to import the required dependencies. The first step is to import the required dependency. Word is a simple word representation from the TextBlob library, which has many useful methods, especially for checking the spelling. Next, let's define a word that we would like to perform the spell check on. Let's use some word that has a spelling mistake, like apple with 3 P's, and perform the spelling check on it. Finally, using the spell check method of the word class, we can check spelling of a word. Now let's run the code and see what we get. The spell check method returns a tuple where the first element is the correct spelling suggestion and the second element is confidence. In our example, the spelling checker is 100% confident that the correct spelling is apple. Note that you may receive multiple tuples or multiple suggestions for correct spellings. For example, if you run the same code for the word apple with 1p, you will get multiple tuples with suggested spellings and the corresponding confidence. Because the above misspelling can be a part of many misspelled words, you get more than one option for correct spelling, ordered by confidence, from largest to smallest. Combining all of the above steps and adding some functionality, we can create a program to check spelling of a word using Python. So far, this part just reuses the code that we discussed previously. The next step is to add conditions which will have outputs corresponding to whether the spelling of the word is correct or incorrect. The first thing that we will do is we will check if the spelling of the original word is the same as the spelling in the first tuple of the list with results. The reason we're comparing it with the spelling of the first word in the first tuple is because if it has more than one tuple in the suggestions, the first tuple has the highest confidence for correct spelling. Now, if the spelling is correct, we will simply return that the spelling of the word is correct. If it's not correct, we'll print that the spelling of the word is not correct and print out the suggested spelling of the word with the highest confidence. Now let's test our function. Perfect. So the code correctly identified that the spelling of apple with 3 P's is not correct, and the suggested spelling is apple with 2 P's and 100% confidence. In this section, we'll explore how to correct spelling of a word using Python. The first step is to import the required dependency. Similar to the previous section of this tutorial, we'll use the word class, which is a simple word representation from the text blob library. Next, we'll define a word for which we would like to correct the spelling. Let's use the same word as we used in the previous section that has a spelling mistake with 3 P's. Finally, using the correct method of word class, we will correct the spelling of a word. Now let's run the code and see what we get. Perfect. The code returned the correct spelling of the word apple. Now, using this code, we can build a program to correct spelling of a word using Python. Now let's test our code. Perfect. The code returned the correct spelling of the word apple. In order to check spelling of a sentence using Python, we will build on the program that we've built in one of the previous sections for checking spelling of a word using Python. Unfortunately, we can't pass the whole sentence into the check, meaning that we will have to split the sentence into individual words and perform the spell check word by word. First, we will need to import the required dependencies. We have already imported Word from TextBlob library, and now we will also need to import the Python regex library. Next, let's define a sentence for which we would like to check the spelling. Let's use a simple sentence that has two spelling mistakes, two E's in the word sentence and two K's in the word check. Now, the next step is to split the sentence into words. After that, we will convert each word to lowercase. The reason we're converting to lowercase is because it affects the performance of the spell checker. Now we'll also need to remove the punctuation signs. The reason we're removing punctuation is because it affects the performance of the spelling checker, since it sees punctuation as characters, which are a part of a word. The last step is to check the spelling of each word in a sentence. Using the check spelling function we created earlier, we can check the spelling of each word in a sentence. Now let's run the code and see what we get. Perfect. we've correctly identified two spelling mistakes. The first one in the word sentence, and the code suggested the correct spelling, which is sentence with one E. And the next one is check with two Ks, and the code suggested the correct spelling of the word check with one K. Combining all of the above steps, using check spelling function we created earlier, and adding some functionality, we can create a program to correct spelling of a word using Python. Now let's test our code. Perfect. We've correctly identified all the spelling mistakes in this sentence. In this section, we will explore how to correct spelling of a sentence using Python. First, we will import the required dependency. TextBlob is a simple text block representation from TextBlob library, which has many useful methods, especially for correcting the spelling. Next, let's define a sentence for which we would like to correct the spelling. Using the correct method of the TextBlob class, we can correct the spelling of a sentence. Now let's run the code and see what we get. Perfect. We've successfully corrected all these spelling mistakes in a sentence. Combining all of the above steps and adding some functionality, we can create a program to correct spelling of a sentence using Python. Now let's test our code. Perfect. We've corrected all these spelling mistakes in a sentence. In this tutorial, we explored how to build a spell checker and corrector program using Python. Feel free to leave comments below if you have any questions. Please like and share the video, subscribe to my channel, and stay tuned for more of my Python programming tutorials.